This machine could change woodworking forever, especially for you, and I know it did for me. This is a 3D printer. Now, why on earth would you use a 3D printer in the wood shop? Well, there's actually a whole bunch of these things can do easily, and that's one of the main things I was surprised by was how easy these are to use and how affordable they actually are in these modern times we're living in. We're literally living in the future, y'all.
Future? I gotta check this out, Doc.
Let me show you. In this video, I want to give you a no-nonsense guide to someone who has no experience in 3D printing, buying their first 3D printer. That's nice. I like that. And getting started making actual stuff for their workshop and how that's benefited me, the challenges I've had, and things I wish I had known when I started. Let's go. So I needed a dust adapter for this job site saw from DeWalt, and in 90 minutes, less than 90 minutes, I was able to find this online for free, drag it into the software and tell this machine to print it, and then now I have a dust adapter that will fit my Festool dust extractor hose and fit over the back of this dust port on this DeWalt saw. That's some things you just absolutely love about having a 3D printer. You see a need, you get to fill a need with this 3D printer just like this. And that's just one small example of some of the parts and pieces you can print for your shop. And a lot of this stuff is already designed and ready to use. You literally just download it and go. We'll talk about that later. I have a Shapeoko Pro 5 CNC machine, and one of the things that you use on a CNC machine are clamps and different things like that. Carbide 3D did something amazing. They gave away all of their 3D print files that you can use to print your own clamps and other parts and pieces that you can use with the CNC. I'll link to their website below where you can get that stuff. And now I can print my own clamps, because if you don't know, if you're using a CNC, sometimes the bit will get into one of those clamps. In other words, cut it, and you're just trash. You just throw it away. But now you can just print them without having to wait for them to be shipped to you. The main reason I bought a 3D printer for my shop was organization. And man, oh man, have I been able to print a lot of stuff, custom stuff that I can use to organize my shop in a better way. First, if you need to sort and store small parts, I printed this in less than a day with all of the boxes and the outer box, and this is stackable. So if I wanted to stack another box on top of it, I could do that. I could just print another one, set it on top, and now I have a small parts organization that you can leave either in a drawer or on top of the workbench, depending on where you want to use them at. I was also able to print a little small parts tray that fits right inside of this drawer on my miter station, and now I have parts and pieces that I normally would use around this area right here stored nice and handy right here. That's pretty cool. And what actually made me buy a 3D printer was these right here. Milwaukee Packout. I like those, but you can get this for most any type of storage. So if you're using Sustainers or if you're using DeWalt storage, any other type, you can find these type of files out there that you can print your own. For instance, this fits perfectly inside a Slimline Packout. And this is a bit holder for all of my bits. So I have a bit set. Now I can store all of these easily, and I can keep up with them, and that's key. And they fit perfectly inside that pack out, so nothing's moving and shifting around. Now, this was one of the main ones that I wanted whenever I got the first 3D printer, and this is one of the things I made. And this is a storage for this little detail sander from Milwaukee that I use all the time. And I like having this because now I can store the sander in this pack out, and I've got all my sandpaper, all that stuff readily available, and I know where this tool is at whenever I need it. And again, they're made to fit perfectly inside a pack out, so if you're transporting these tools or anything like that, that's awesome. And another example for Packout is this installation driver. This has 4 different heads that you can use on it, and you want to be able to keep up with those. And this thing comes in like a little soft carry bag, which is not that great for keeping up with stuff. This keeps everything nice and sorted. And these inserts lift out, and then there's storage underneath. So if you wanted to put bits or anything like that, you can keep them below. There's actually a new version of this now. I just haven't printed it yet. And all of these Packout inserts come from a designer. His name is Jonah Pope Designs. I'll link to his website below. I purchased all of these files from him myself, and they're very affordable for what you're getting. This is probably one of my favorite Milwaukee Packout things they make, and that's these drawer boxes. When I first got this, or when I first ordered it, I thought, man, these things are gonna be jinky. They're gonna be flimsy, but they're not. They're really nice. I recently, like yesterday, printed this for my Milwaukee router to keep in this drawer. I can literally stack everything in here now nice and neat. It fits perfectly in these design boxes. Again, I bought these from Jonah Pope Designs. I actually ran out of white filament during this print, and I just threw on some purple, and it finished the print in a different color. That's why you got 2 colors there. Underneath there, I can keep the extra base for the router. On top, I have my bit storage. I can store a battery, and then on the side, I can keep my guide and all kinds of stuff. Just super cool. And I wanted to try my hand at designing, so I designed this in Fusion 360. This is my CA glue holder that I've made, and it'll hold either the pump sprayer or the aerosol can, and then 6 different colors or thicknesses of the CA glue, and they fit in there perfectly. And then I have a little tray in the back where I can keep the nozzles and things like that. This thing is on my website, 731woodworks.com. Look under the plans section. You'll see it in there if you want to buy that and then print it for yourself. Now, to show you a crazy example of what these things can do, this is like a little man lift like you'd see on a construction site. Both of these printed, one printed on the small machine, one printed on the large machine, and they look identical. What's crazy is they printed in place. In other words, they printed just like this, and they actually work. You can articulate the man lift up and down with this little twist knob. It come off of the machine like this already. Everything was already in place. I didn't have to put anything together. There was no assembly required. And the wheels roll off the machine. Like, this is futuristic stuff. Now, this was just done for fun, just to show you that you could do stuff like that. It's absolutely insane at how much stuff you can do with one of these machines. Now you got toys for the kids. I even printed some wireless charging stands for my nightstands for my wife and I for our phones at night. We could just slap them on there and just let them charge. This thing will do a bunch of stuff, not just for the workshop, but that's mainly where I'm using it at. Now, what's the difference in the machines other than price, okay? This one is less than $300 depending on when you buy it. It should be less than $300 at the time of this filming anyway. And then this one is north of about $1,500 because you do get a lot extra with this one. And this one can have some add-ons as well. You can get the one with the full rolls just like this, so you can print different colors, things like that. But what I found with this one is I typically only print in single colors anyway. So I wanted to save money, and I just got this one. And I think that this was probably the best for most people to get started with a few caveats. Before we get to the rest of the video, I got to give a shout out to our April monthly challenge winner from SawdustStartups.com. This is Jonathan Karner. He has Giving Back Green Custom Woodworks on Instagram, YouTube, and he has that website as well, givingbackgreencustomwoodworks.com. He won our April monthly challenge. We do a challenge every month, and the winner gets a shout out on these videos. Congratulations, Jonathan. If you want to find out more about jumpstarting your woodworking business, check us out, SawdustStartups.com. Now, get back to these 3D printers. Both of these machines out of the box were super easy to set up. When I got this A1 Mini in, it was up and running within less than 10 minutes. It was very well packed. And take one shipping bracket off. You take it out of the box, you would put 2 pieces on, I think, 2 screws you take on, and you're ready to go. It's super, super simple. Anybody could get one of these and have it set up and running in about 10 minutes. You can download the app for your phone, and then you can print from your phone or anything like that. They make it so easy. With the Bamboo X1 Carbon, it took me a little bit longer to set up. There was a few other things to do, but this one also came extremely well packed. But getting it set up wasn't difficult. It just had a few extra steps to go through before it was ready to use. I have been seriously impressed with the quality of this machine and everything that goes along with it. Very little trouble. There have been a couple little small hiccups here and there, which can be expected from most any machine at all. But overall, this has been one of the coolest purchases I've ever made for the shop, and probably one of the most fun things I've ever bought. Both these machines do feature a touch screen. On the A1 Mini, it's quite a bit smaller, and on the X1 Carbon, it is articulating. In other words, it's up here. You could probably see it catching the light there. It will move. These are very good, very responsive touch screens. It's not like some cheap touch screen from 10 years ago when you touch the thing and nothing happens for 2 seconds. These are like using an iPad or a phone or anything like that. They work very well. And they have a bunch of good information on the screen before the print, during the print. You do everything you need to set up or tweak on these machines. It's done through these touch screens, and it's very easy to do. One major difference between these two machines, for one, they print pretty close to the same speed. Now, this one's about 30 minutes-ish slower on major jobs, sometimes 45 minutes slower, just based on the design and how it does it, versus this one. It's not a major deal. But the main difference is the print area. This A1 Mini has 7" by 7" by 7" print area, where the X1 Carbon has 10 inches by 10 inches by 10 inches, so you can print quite a bit bigger stuff on here. And that's important if you're trying to make those pack out inserts and things like that, because some of them, the files will not fit on this 7" size. So that's one thing to consider when you're looking at these. And there's models in between these two, so if you don't want to spend $1,500 and you don't want the smaller 7" size, you can get somewhere in the middle there with some of their other options, which I'll link to in the description below. I was actually recommended to get the P1S model of this, which is basically the one right under this, but I went with this one just because I thought buy once, cry once type thing. It's my first, I thought at the time, my only 3D printer, and now that I have this one, I'm like, I like this so much. Another difference obviously is size. Look at this thing. It's like tiny, tiny thing that you can print awesome stuff with. This one takes up a considerable amount of room, more. You don't have to get this with the AMS, the rolls of spool on top. You can get it with just a spool holder. It comes with just a spool holder on the bottom or on the back, and then it just takes up the size of this square box. This has been one of the most impressive things that I've purchased in the last year or so. I've just been thoroughly impressed and had so much fun using both of these machines. I keep printing stuff, keep finding stuff that I want to print. I sit in bed at night on the laptop and I'll scroll through these websites that have these free files and things, or even I've purchased some too from Jonah Post Designs and a couple other places, and I just can tell the printer to start printing from the laptop sitting in bed watching TV. It's so cool. I can see the temptation there to add a bunch of these and start printing stuff to sell to make money for the business. Not going to do that, I don't think, but I can see where people want to do that. Now, there's a few things I wish I had known before I bought my first 3D printer that I'm going to share with you. Number one, I thought they would be extremely hard to use. I thought it would be very similar to the CNC, that I would wind up having to spend a lot of time trying to learn something new. It's not the case. You can find these files online. There's a few websites that have free files available where users and makers out there have uploaded their designs and you can use them for free. You just print and use them, in your shop, things like that. Now you can't just print those and go start selling them, but you can print them for personal use, which is what I've been doing. It makes it so easy. Bamboo Lab actually has their own website where makers upload their stuff and you can open it directly into the software on your computer from the website. That makes things a lot easier, but even uses websites like Printables and Thingiverse. Once you download the file, you can just drag it over into the software, click the slice button, which basically the machine goes through and figures out how it's going to print this, and then hit print, and it'll send it to the machine wirelessly over your internet. The second thing I wish I had known was honestly, I don't use many colored printers. Now I like printing in different colors, but I don't use multicolor prints very much. So basically printing something out that's kind of ornate or has a bunch of different colors in it, like a figure or anything like that, I just don't do that. I only print usually black, white, red, or blue. I like those 4 colors, so those are the colors, and I just buy PLA basic. Now you can get into buying different materials for different type of stuff, but I just buy the basic PLA, and it's worked extremely well for me for everything that I've been printing that you've seen here so far. While you do use filament to make things, it goes further than you would think. I think if you just buy a couple of rolls of black and white and red, whatever your colors are, and then you can just start printing and you'll figure out about how much you're going to use. That's probably the best way to do it. Another thing I wish I knew was print speed. I did a whole review video on this X1 Carbon on the Outlaw Effect, my other channel, and I mentioned that it printed slower than I was expecting, and a lot of people were like, this will print a part in 3 hours where a competitor of this machine might take 12 hours. So there's a major difference, and I realized pretty quickly that these things are generating physical products pretty much out of string in a matter of minutes or sometimes just a few hours. It's actually quite impressive when you really sit back and think about it. One thing that sets the Bamboo Lab printers apart from what I've read and watched in reviews and things is they are basically set it and forget it, very beginner consumer level ready. Out of the box, 10 minutes later, you're printing something and you don't have to do anything. A lot of the other competitors, you have to keep the beds just right level and all this other stuff that goes into keeping these set up and maintained. These, they self-level the bed so you don't ever have to worry about that, and everything just works. It just works without a whole lot of fiddling with it, and that's what I wanted. I don't want to tinker with this thing all the time. I just want to print stuff with it, and that's why I like it so much. It's so easy. And the last thing I wish I knew before I bought my first 3D printer is how affordable they are. Again, this is under $300, and $300 isn't a small amount of money. I understand that. But for what you're getting and what you can produce with this, and if you wanted to start selling your own product, you could print these and start putting them on eBay or whatever. You could design your own stuff or pay somebody on Fiverr to go design your own products based off your measurements. And then you can just start selling stuff. You put it on Etsy or sell it on your website or through Instagram or anything like that. That's why people get these print farms going, because they do generate income if you want them to. I personally don't want to get into that, but I do love having this available just to print stuff for my personal use. And of course, you can spend more money and jump up to something like this, get a lot more features, get a few more niceties. The camera in here is better, which I think is genius on Bamboo's part of putting cameras in these things, so you can capture the time lapses of your prints. They look so cool. This one also has a camera, but the one on the X1 is much better. Just because you're paying more for it, you get a higher quality camera. I like that too. And I like that this X1 Carbon is enclosed. In other words, the door here closes. It has a glass top on here that will come off if you need it to. And you just, I don't know, I like that it's enclosed. I don't have to worry about dust and stuff getting in there too much, especially in the wood shop. Although I haven't noticed any major problems with this, I wouldn't want to use this in a massively dusty environment. So if you don't have dust collection and things like that, I would steer clear of using something like this in the open while dust is being spit in the air. Otherwise, you can just, a lot of people use these in the home. They put them in a spare bedroom or something like that. I've seen that done. That's up to you whether you want to do that with yours or not. Another thing I wish I knew before I started is these things poop. It's what they call it. Puts out these little bits of plastic or filament, especially when it's clearing out to get another color or you're switching parts, things like that. It'll basically clean out the nozzle. Then it leaves you with these little tangled pieces of filament, AKA they call it poop. And so I printed a poop chute for the back of this one, and this was also found free online. And it just catches those to keep it from just piling up behind it, spits it around, and then when it gets full, I just dump it out. The A1 Mini does not create as much of that poop, but it does, I say poop, but it does create a little bit. But if you did have the 4 spools on here, the AMS that you can buy with this one, then it would create more if it's switching colors, things like that. And another thing I wish I knew when I first started was these print plates matter. The A1 Mini comes with a textured plate. It's called the Bamboo Textured PEI plate. And all that means is I don't have to use glue on them, because on this one, it comes with a cool plate, I think it's called, and then you have to put glue, use a glue stick like you did in grade school, smear glue on it so that the part sticks to that while it's printing so it doesn't move. But on my previous video that I made on this, someone recommended that I get this textured plate for this machine, so I ordered it. It's like magic. You don't have to put any glue on there. You just print and go. If you get this machine, get the Bamboo Textured PEI plate, you'll thank me later. Another thing I wish I'd have known before I started was, I said it was very easy to get started. It is very easy to get started. I was extremely surprised at how easy it is to get started, but there are some learning curves along the way that there's no way to know until you really dive into it. Some things you'll just run into as you start printing things. You're like, why did that happen? You'll figure it out pretty quickly in most cases, but don't expect like everything to be sunshine and rainbows 100% of the time. That's not the case with any machine really, and especially with any type of machine that's using a bunch of different moving parts. Like, things happen. So I don't want to set some unrealistic expectations, but I did want to let you know that it's very easy to get started with minimal trouble. But there will be times when things just don't do right. Maybe the first layer of the print doesn't stick correctly and then it stops. Or maybe the filament gets jammed because it got wrapped around itself. Like, minor things like that will happen, but nothing major has happened. And that's one of the things I was kind of concerned about, was I was going to waste a bunch of money on the rolls of filament, which I haven't done, so that's a good thing. And another thing I wish I knew about these before I started, well, a CNC machine is loud. Like, it's fairly loud because you have a router cutting wood. So I was expecting these to be kind of loud too, but they're not. The A1 Mini, very quiet. If this was in a room and you was on the opposite side of the wall, you'd probably never hear it. There's some fans that will run about like a computer fan or a gaming system fan. Well, you'll hear that spin up. If you're in the next room, you can't hear that. This one, same thing. Like, it does have a bigger fan, so it's a little bit louder, but not overly loud. It's not obnoxiously loud. That's one of the main things I was kind of surprised by, is how quiet these all are. Let's talk about the software just a minute. There's an app called Bamboo Handy. You can download it right now on your iOS or Android device, and you can start and stop or check on the progress of the machine as it's running with the app. You can also discover models and things like that that you want to print on this app. It's a really functional app and it works extremely well. And there is a Bamboo Studio app for your computer, Mac or PC, and that's what I use most of the time, because I can also, while I'm working at the desk, can you leave a live feed going and look in on this thing while it's working, and then I can also stop it if I see any trouble, or I can send projects to it wirelessly without ever leaving the desk, and it'll start up, it'll level itself, it'll do everything, and I don't have to touch it. And speaking of the software being easy to use, while it is very easy to use and understand, you can also tweak things in there if you're so inclined and you're into the more advanced stuff. It will get very advanced for you, but for somebody like me who doesn't really like messing with that stuff, I like to kind of just let it do its thing. It works perfect for me. Now, these aren't set it and forget it machines. They kind of are, but you still have to kind of keep an eye on them too. I wouldn't want to start printing and go to bed. That's just not me. Some people do, but I don't. And I'm not gonna start printing something and then go to Walmart and buy groceries. I wanna be near them, so if something does go wrong, I'm here. Now, these machines do have spaghetti detection, so if they start seeing something wrong, well, they also have first layer detection, so if something when they start printing is wrong, it'll stop itself so you don't ruin a bunch of filament or just waste a bunch of time. I do like that feature. But overall, I've been able to print things for 5, 6, 7 hours. One of my longest prints was like 13 hours or something like that when I was printing this stand for the AMS. Zero issues. As far as upkeep and maintenance goes, they ship with some grease and things for some of these moving parts, but it's minimal upkeep. You don't have to do a whole lot to them, and they will pop up on the screen when it's time to put a little more grease on these ball screws and things like that. So it's really great that they included those, but the maintenance is very minimal. So the only real problems I've had over the last 7 or 8 months with this machine here, I've only had this one for a few weeks, but I've had this bigger machine here, is sometimes the filament will get broke, or if I haven't used it in a few weeks, months, like I went like a month or so without using it, and when I tried to use it, the piece of the filament in this first slot spool had broke inside underneath here. So I had to take all the spools off and then just lift it up and look inside, and I saw where it was broke through the tubes that it runs through, and I was able to clear that out pretty quickly once I figured it out, but it did take me a minute to figure it out. And the other problem I've had with the AMS is sometimes it doesn't recognize that there's filament there. It keeps telling me to load filament. I do have it loaded. It's very easy to do, and it just won't load it. So it kind of has a glitch there every great once in a while, but it hasn't been a major issue. So which one should you buy for your shop? Well, if it's your first one, you're on a budget, you're not sure if you're going to want to get into 3D printing or what you're going to make with it, just get this one. You'll have a ton of fun with it. You'll get hooked and you're like, yeah, I love this thing. I can make a lot of stuff with it. But if you have a little bit more budget, I think you should look at either the P1S from Bamboo Labs or the P1P, or all the way up to the X1 Carbon. I love this machine. If you have the budget for it, get that one. But if you don't want to spend that kind of money on something, check out the P1P or the P1S. They have the exact same print size as this one, so you're not losing any capacity there. You're just losing some of the niceties that this comes with, but you probably may not ever need, depending on your uses. Just go ahead and compare those and find out what's best for you. If you just want to dip your toe in the water, A1 Mini is really nice. And when you do purchase, pick up a couple of rolls of filament, whatever your favorite color are, throw those in the cart when you check out. That way when it comes in, you need nothing else. It comes with everything you need, minus the filament. When you add the filament in there, you can print the day you get it. What's crazy is I have barely scratched the surface on what these things are capable of. Even in my little shop, I've been able to do so much, get so much more organized, get everything just exactly like I want it, and there's still so much more I can do with them. It's absolutely insane. If you've been on the fence, I highly encourage you to at least get this A1 Mini, dip your toes in the water, and then you're gonna be hooked. These things are absolutely genius and amazing to have in the shop. I am thoroughly excited to have them in the shop. I have not regretted purchasing either one of these. Go check them out. Link in the description and the pinned comment to help you find them easier. If you like this video, you gotta check it out when I unbox my first impressions of the Bamboo X1 Carbon. Click that box right there. It's gonna take you over to the Outlaw Effect. Be sure to subscribe to that channel when you're over there. Clicking the box gets you the big old virtual fist bump. Thank you.